But there's another kind of logic. Nobody uses deductive logic in a jury trial. So I'm giving you a little hint here. This is called informal logic, okay? Informal logic is inductive. What this one is you're looking at content based on evidence. So you're not making a certain claim, right? When you're in a jury trial, nobody saw the crime. So you have a defense attorney and you have a prosecutor, and you're going on the basis of the evidence. It's different. In this one, it's information or facts that are going to help you get to what you think is true. We know that one's different because we can put people away for life that didn't commit the crime. We can make a mistake because we're going on probability. You can never do that with deductive logic. That's why math works. If the axioms are true, the conclusion is certain every time. In this one, you're going on probability, not certainty. Huge, huge difference. Okay? So you're looking at the weight of the evidence, how relevant it is, and reaching a conclusion. We don't have this problem anymore with a baby in the womb. We know with deductive logic that we're breaking the law because we're murdering someone. We know that because it's a human being. No matter what the argument is, scientifically we've shown that. Until that day came, we weren't completely sure. Now we know. It's a deductive argument. There's a lot of things, though, that use this method. This method isn't as certain, and you're using probabilities. Okay? So while deductive logic is structure, you come up with the premises, inductive logic is evidence. Everybody with me so far? Okay? Let's look at some examples. People do this all the time, all the time. This is what I do for a living, statistics. I'll see this graph, and I'll say, does it look to you like there's a pattern? Okay? This is a graph that's literally comparing gross domestic product with the unemployment rate. Gross domestic product has to do with how good our economy's running, how much we produce. Notice how the unemployment rate and gross domestic product work together, right? Now, the black line is government spending based on gross domestic product. The higher the government spending goes, it's interesting how the unemployment rate's following. And it's actually the other way around. The more the government's spending. All right? So from data, you're using it to draw a conclusion based on evidence. As an example, I could do this. I said, I surveyed 1,000 people, and they overwhelmingly said vanilla is the best ice cream. Therefore, based on that sample size, vanilla is the best ice cream. Right? You would say, well, I don't know, because I know I like chocolate, right? Or, best means compared to the population, it would still end up being the winner. But we look at that and say, well, it's not conclusive enough to me. Last year, how did the Chiefs do last year? Won the Super Bowl, didn't they? Okay. Now, anecdotes means I'm going to give you my opinion. It's not necessarily based on data, but it's what I think and how I feel. So literally, this is a inductive argument in my logic class last year. Remember how they only won one of their first 3 games? They kind of sucked last year at the beginning. They didn't do that well. So everybody thought the conclusion was they'll be lucky to win 33% of their games. Right? But that's not what happened. So here's an example of using evidence and drawing a conclusion where it didn't work out. How about this one? So in California, they issued a report that a 16-foot great white shark fatally attacked and killed a man. And they said the evidence we have is the teeth pattern on the board, the injuries to the victim's body, and the fact that they know great white sharks frequent that area. Nobody ever saw the great white shark. They just recovered the body. Do you think it's true? Probability. It's not certain, but the evidence is strong enough to sway some of you guys, isn't it? It's very interesting. You have laws being changed, especially in California, some wacky laws being changed right now for all kinds of things, and they're trying to present evidence to back up their laws, and you look at it and go, that evidence isn't good enough. So inductive arguments are different. These are arguments that people are going to draw their most reasonable explanation for the argument, but that argument isn't certain. It's just probable, right? So that's what we're faced with a lot of things right now in our culture. It's not deductive arguing, it's inductive, and they're asking you to weigh the evidence to see whether it's true or not. Literally, the moment that bomb hit on that hospital in Gaza, within hours, a report is put out with a conclusion, right? Israel bombed a hospital, right? Now, the evidence was based on history in their minds and how they thought about Israel, and they said this must be true. Then we get live footage of literally a Hamas rocket misfiring and hitting the hospital and killing all these people.
Except for the hospital, the parking lot next to it.
Right. So now all of a sudden you're getting some pretty good evidence that you could form a deductive argument from it if you wanted to. But you just saw a refutation of a claim, a truth claim. When people say these things, they're making truth claims. They're saying Israel killed people in the hospital. That's a truth claim. Well, how can you back up your argument? How do you know? Well, Israel's an apartheid state that hates Gaza, and they'll do anything, and they're mad right now, so they're killing innocent people. So that's their argument. Now, you notice what I just did? No structure, just opinion. I'm all over the map. This is what you get with people when they're not rational. They're just going to talk their opinion all over the map. I heard Alistair Begg talking about a guy in church who was real frustrated because he was trying to share Jesus Christ with his neighbor. And he's out mowing his lawn, and they're standing at the fence between the lawns, and his neighbor says, well, how do you know Jesus is God? How do you know? The guy goes, well, because the Bible says he's God. He goes, well, how do you know? Because how do you know the Bible's true? He goes, well, I know. He goes, yeah, but how do you know? And the guy gets frustrated, and he goes, I know because I know because I know. We're as guilty as everybody else. You've got to have a reasoned argument for why Jesus is God. And a reasoned argument exists. Most of us, we don't know it, so we're just as bad as these news media that make up this stuff.